Welcome to Waywut. This is a rabbit hole podcast where we cover topics ranging from sports to true crime and pop culture to just weird facts. Really, it's just a couple of guys taking turns to present weird topics to each other. We publish episodes on Tuesdays and sometimes on Fridays. You can watch us on YouTube and listen pretty much anywhere you listen to podcasts. It's Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Pandora, just wherever. We're probably there. We really appreciate you joining us for this episode. And now that we got all this self-promotion stuff out of the way, here we go. Hello. Welcome to yet another episode of Waywut. My name is Darrell, and I'll be hosting today. And along with me is the inventor of Marlboro Minis, the cigarette for kids, Jason.
Hey, you gotta make money somehow.
You know.
I don't discriminate.
Well, I mean, cigarette sales are down because all the kids started vaping. So, you know.
True.
You saw a gap in the market and you took advantage of it.
Yeah. Nobody was tapping that market, so why not?
All right. Well, being that our listeners base is actually kind of growing now, I'm like a little shocked. You know, it's still in the dozens, but you know, it's more dozens than it used to be.
Hey, it's more than just our wives.
Yeah. And so I can say this and actually feel comfortable saying it that, you know, most of you don't know that I have a degree in history. You know, because usually when it's all like family and friends listening, everybody's like, "Duh, Darrell, who the hell are you talking to?" And so, you know, I'm a history buff. I like history stuff. So, but today I'm going to kind of do a bit of a history rant. I don't know how I'm going to bitch about history, but believe me, I found a way. Do you ever wonder why young people constantly say, "Don't judge me. Don't judge me"? I mean,
Yes.
You've heard your daughter say it. I'm assuming.
Yes.
Yeah. I've heard all my kids say it repeatedly. And you know, I think the reason that is that judging is probably the most popular hobby or pastime among people. People love to judge.
Oh yeah.
And I don't think that's new. I mean, everybody's always liked to judge stuff.
Oh yeah. Caveman been judging caveman.
Exactly. We just have better platforms now to declare our judgments.
Oh yeah. A bunch of those.
Yeah, social media. It's like you got TikTok, YouTube, podcasts, text messages. However, if you got something critical that you want to communicate to somebody, they don't have to be right next to you or in the same room. They don't even have to be on the same continent now. You just blast that out there. Communication is easier now than it has ever been in history.
Yeah.
So everyone can vocalize anything and everything constantly. Just nonstop.
Ad nauseum.
Yeah. I mean, people put just so much out there. He said as he recorded himself to put it on the internet. But
Don't judge me.
But as people put themselves out there more, then it allows people to respond more because everybody has access to it.
Oh yeah.
You know, like
smash that like.
I mean, people will get dozens and dozens of watchers and listeners. So, I mean, even though everyone knows that when you put yourself out there, anyone on the internet can respond back, but people still seem to get indignant about it. Like, why are these people jumping on me like they forgot about it?
Yeah, it's like getting undressed in front of a window. Why are they looking at me?
Yeah.
Get out from under the window.
I'm going to get this out of the way. I don't fault anyone for being judgmental. If there's something that is being said and it is in earshot or it is written and you can read it, it is subject to judgment. But the part that gets on my nerves is that judging people has, you know, with all the communication stuff out there, it's almost become a competitive sport. People want to be the one with the snarkiest comment or have the best articulated judgment or hell,
Oh
even
yeah,
just be the first.
absolutely.
Yeah. And with it being this competitive, much like the fat kid that wants a head start in the race, or the ones that can't jump wanting the basketball lower than their opponents, people are going to find a way to have an edge on that competition.
Uh-huh.
The easiest way to do that is judging people that can't defend themselves. Who can't defend themselves nowadays? Dead people.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I cannot stand people, judging historical figures from the past with modern sensibilities. That don't work. It's
Uh-uh.
easy to sit there and type up your judgment on your little pocket computer about a dead person that lived in a time that was infinitely more difficult than what your life is right now.
Yeah, you don't know what they were going through to make them have to do the things that you're being judged on today.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, it makes no sense at all. It's like, yeah, you got to worry about getting shot or getting plague or, like, I don't know, your kid dying from like dysentery just, on a whim. It's a whole different mentality. It's a different world. Uh, so I'm going to take a moment during all this, and I'm going to tell you a story about a guy that was, trying to help some sick people. He's
Okay.
sitting there helping these sick people, and a lady comes up to him and says, "Hey, will you help my daughter?" And the guy says, "No, I'm here to help Jewish people only."
Uh-huh.
And she begs him. She's like, "Please, please help my daughter." And he's like, "I'm, I'm not going to ignore my Jewish people for a dog like you." And she tells him, "If that's the case, then I will always be your dog. If I'm going to be a dog, I will be your dog." And he's like, "That's right, you are." And then he helped her daughter out. Now, if you hear that, and the guy that did it was Chris Pratt or Elton John or some weirdo that lives down the street, then you're going to be all like, "What the hell's this guy's problem? He's crazy."
Uh-huh.
That isn't the case in this story, because that guy was Jesus. And that's a story from Matthew chapter 15, verses 21-28. It's meant to show that even if you weren't Jewish, if you just had faith in God and followed Jesus, he'd have your back. And that's what her sitting there saying, "Hey, I'm not Jewish. I may be a dog, but I'll be your dog." And he's like,
Yeah.
"All right." But, you know, the version of my story without the context would be easy for somebody to be judgmental and be like, "Oh my gosh, what's this dude's like a revert, you know, whatever the reverse of an anti-Semite is." I mean, what's a Jewish person that hates all Gentiles?
A Jewish person
I mean, yeah,
that
because
hates
Jesus was a
everybody.
Jew that hates all Gentiles, non-Jewish people. I don't know. Anyway, we need a name for that because I'm sure it's out there. I'm sure somebody's out there. But it's easy pickings for those judgmental people that aren't quick enough to like jump on whatever bandwagon so that they don't get the attention of judging things.
Uh-huh.
So whether it was the founding fathers that owned plantations, the African tribes that sold captives as slaves to the Portuguese, or
Uh-huh.
cutting the balls off of young boys so that they keep their singing voices.
I heard about that.
Oh yeah, the castrati.
Yes. That's incredible. That's wow.
There's actually a recording of one
I've
singing like
heard it.
the last
Yeah,
castrati.
that's pretty creepy.
But
He was up there though.
Yeah,
He got that
they
pitch.
they lived in a different time and they had
Uh-huh.
different ethics and different morals. And at that time, in the case of the castrati, it was that important enough where it's like, I have this beautiful singing voice. I don't want to change it. I don't want to be like that kid on the Brady Bunch, you know, or like
I
Homer on The
can't believe that.
Simpsons. It's castrati.
Yeah, I've just heard about that recently. How funny that you bring that up. Never heard before in my life, and you hear it today in the last 2 days.
Oh wow, I've known about the castrati for a while, but
Uh-uh.
whatever. History buff. But the purpose of history, of studying history, isn't to judge it. It's to learn. Learning about what life was like back then and how those practices that we're like, oh God, no, don't do those,
Mm-hmm.
how those came about and how what we can do to make sure that they don't happen again. I say
Yeah.
this as now people are trying to give puberty blockers to kids. Anyways,
If you don't learn from history, it's doomed to repeat itself.
yeah, it's not the. I mean, you don't study history to try to run people through the mud saying that we shouldn't study these people anymore because they did something that we are appalled by nowadays. I mean, if that
Well,
was the case, we wouldn't be able to study nobody. I mean, like,
well, no. I mean, the biggest shows on television right now are crime shows about serial killers.
well, yeah, well, but that's not quite the same because the whole time they're usually trying to make they're like, I'm not sensationalizing this. Now, like I was saying, her guts were wrapped around her neck, but no, and at the same time, it's like the whole victim blaming thing where it's all like, yeah, he was an abusive boyfriend, and yes, she did finally get away from him, but on this one particular night, she decided to hang out with him again and do coke, and then she disappeared. Well, what the fuck is she running around with the guy that abused her?
Yeah, especially doing
Shame!
coke.
Shame! Anyways,
Mm-hmm.
all
With
right.
that wagging
Now,
finger, can you do that one more time?
shame! Anyway, now with all this being said, with me sitting there taking my stance of saying don't judge historical figures with modern sensibilities.
Are we about to George historical figure?
No, I'm
No.
adding a caveat to this. I'm going to just throwing this out there. I'm not against them tearing down Confederate statues. I'm
Okay.
not. It's
Why
not.
not?
It's not because it's being. It's not about anything of it being like judgmental or anything like that. It's like, why are we celebrating the leaders of a losing side of a war?
Huh?
I mean, like, why do you want a statue of somebody that lost a war? It's like, yeah, congrats. No. I mean, if they want to celebrate like the regular soldiers that fought and like died and were in the losing side of that really bloody war
Mm-hmm.
and they put their name on a monument, hell yes, I'm all about that. Regular people are always the ones that have to shoulder war. If anybody's
Oh.
going to be like celebrated, it needs to be those people. But some bearded white guy on a horse that led people into a losing fight for his own glory or his own plantation, unless the town that statue is named after him, I don't get the point. Now, if the town is named after him, then yeah, keep the statue up. I mean, it's actually
Yeah, I
part of
guess.
the town's history.
Okay.
Unless and if it really bothers you, change the name of the town, get rid of the statue. I don't care. But whenever people are getting all butthurt about that, it's like seriously, it's like they lost a losing fight. I mean, it'd be like Mexico sitting there like having statues saying, well, they probably do have statues of Santa Anna, but say it was like Santa Anna was a president. If they had it of like some like general that like got his ass kicked in one of the battles against Texas,
Mm-hmm.
then it's like why are you celebrating that?
I can see
Wow,
what you're saying.
that was a long one. I just really can't stand when people do that. Now, I just really wanted to hammer in this point because today's topic shows up in various articles as scathing judgments of this dead guy. And I'm not going to do that because this guy does not deserve to have all these scathing judgments referring to him as like one of the most evil people in history. Um, he wasn't evil, but he had a lot of good intentions, which sometimes that goes really, really, really wrong.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
he had a good
So,
heart. His heart was
yeah,
in the right place.
yeah, this guy's heart was in the right place.
He had the right idea.
Sort of. Not, I mean, he wasn't a saint. But this episode is not in judgment of this man's character. It is, however, all about making fun of the results of this guy's hard work.
Okay, I'm good at doing that.
Yeah, I'm going to make fun of that. Well, now that I've kind of established what we're doing in my own little incoherent way, welcome to the episode that I'm calling Thomas Midgley, Accidental Bond Villain.
Accidental? Okay.
Accidental Bond Villain.
I like it.
Thomas Midgley Jr. was born on May 18th, 1889 in Beaver Falls, Pennsylvania.
Wait a minute. That's another story from Pennsylvania.
Yes,
There's a
another
lot
story.
of things that originate from Pennsylvania.
Maybe it's like a low key Florida.
I guess. I mean,
it is also one of the oldest states, and a lot of my stuff tends to go back a bit. So
very true. Okay.
All right. Now, inventing, as in inventing things, was in Thomas's blood. His father invented demountable rims for car tires. You know, instead of buying new rims with every new tire, you just got to buy the tire and just put it on the rim. Okay. We have Thomas Midgley Sr. just to thank for that. His grandfather on his mother's side invented the inserted tooth saw. That sounds horrifying, but I assure you it has nothing to do with dentistry. Unless I was the only one that thought that whenever I heard inserted tooth saw.
I instantly thought some sort of dental tool.
No, it's a saw where you can insert teeth into the saw blade.
Oh, okay.
That's it.
It's a terrible name.
Yeah, I know. It's like I hear that. And no.
Oh, come on, they gotta get a good trademark name.
Yeah.
Don't they know about genericide?
Throwback.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so Thomas Jr. went to Cornell University and graduated in 1911 with a degree in mechanical engineering, which is a pretty good degree if you're going to be if you're going to invent things.
Mm-hmm.
Well, now that he's gone through college, I'm going to take a bit of a detour from his life, and we're going to talk about early 20th century cars. You know, like the Model A and stuff like that. These early cars had issues with what's called an engine knock. And an engine knock is when what happens whenever the gas in the engine detonates outside of the part of the engine where it's supposed to detonate. You know, because whenever an engine, you know, it's got the spark plug, sparks the gas catches on fire, moves the piston. Well, you know, the gas gets out of there, it explodes, but not in the right spot. So then you end up with this knock or this pinging sound because the gas gets out. So, knock. Well, it does. It did back then.
I'm not talking about that type of gas.
Oh, dear God. All right. Well, in 1921, while working for Dayton Research Laboratories, which was owned by General Motors, Thomas was given the task to eliminate engine knock.
Okay.
You know, and quickly, and it didn't take him long, but he figured it out that adding ethanol would knock out the problem. It would get rid of the engine knock. You know, the grain alcohol that you get from like corn and stuff like that. Stuff that's in our gas nowadays. He was like, oh, hey, we can just put this ethanol in there. Boom, engine knock's taken care of. And GM's like, I'm glad that you took care of what we asked you to, but we don't like that solution because we can't patent ethanol. Anybody can make that. And how are we supposed to make an ungodly amount of money if we use something that other companies can access?
Yeah.
Go make us a chemical that will do the knock, and don't tell anybody about this ethanol taking care of the problem. So
Tom, that happens in more back rooms than you think of.
Oh yeah. So Thomas goes back to the drawing board, and eventually he found out that adding tetraethyl, something prevented engine knocking. This was a huge deal. GM is like, oh yes, here is a chemical. We shall call the gas that we mix it with, ethyl. And they went and filed a patent, and they got to produce the only formula at the time for no-knock fuel. And they're like, oh, look at us, hey, come get our gas. It'll keep your engine from making those annoying sounds. Hooray, hooray, all's well. And then, in December 1922, Thomas received an award called the Nichols Medal from the American Chemical Society for the use of anti-knock compounds. So they're like, you are the man. Here's an award. Great job.
Thank you for stopping knocking.
Now, the notable part of the name of the chemical that he figured out on adding, tetrathylide, is lead. It is a lead compound. So
lead equals bad.
Now, he worked on this, got it out there, and then after he was done, after he perfected the formula, he immediately went on vacation to Miami. He got to relax and recover from lead poisoning that he got while working on that formula the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
So now let's have a quick lesson on lead poisoning.
Yes.
People can be poisoned by lead through contaminated air, water, dust, or food. So you can breathe it, you could have it land on your skin, you could eat it, drink it.
It's pretty easy to catch.
No matter what, it's going to get all
open to everybody.
Yeah. The symptoms include abdominal pain, constipation, headaches, irritability, memory problems, infertility, and tingling extremities.
Well, god dang, I got lead poisoning.
Maybe you do.
Maybe. I'm very irritable.
It is also stated to cause intellectual disabilities that can result in behavioral problems. I hate the word behavioral.
Yeah,
it's worse
that's a
than
weird
rural.
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 Too many pronounced. Yeah.
Behavioral. There we go. Now, some of these symptoms can become permanent if you have continued exposure to lead. And then if you have like a severe case, it can result in anemia, seizures, coma, or death. So all the worst things that a poison could probably do to you, it'll do.
Mm-hmm.
So meanwhile, back at the ranch, GM began working with DuPont, a chemical company that has a great reputation nowadays.
You brought them up before too.
Yeah. They work with DuPont to manufacture tetrathylide needed for the gas mixture. So they would need to, they needed to compose, make the compound, the lead compound. They would make it at DuPont, and then they would later add it to gasoline to make ethyl. And they would make the tetrathylide at DuPont. Over the next few years, there were numerous cases of lead poisoning at the plants where they were making their new ethyl gas. 15 of those cases resulted in death.
Oopsie.
The state of New Jersey shut their plant down that was there, but after a year, it was reopened after the federal government intervened, saying, you open that place, because of course they're going to.
15 deaths are under our allotted amount. We're good to go.
Well, you don't get between America and our gas. I mean, that's a good way to get a big dose of freedom. We'll come and give you some freedom if you keep trying to get in our gas. Don't you? You don't want that. All right.
Yeah, I got a bunch of songs.
Now, most things that I read try to paint Thomas as an evil guy that didn't care about the repercussions. And I'm not going to lie, there was a little bit of that in there. I mean, he got lead poisoning again while he was trying to show how harmless the ethyl gas was by breathing in the vapors for a minute at a press conference. So, I mean, he's like, this is fun. And he's sitting there huffing gas in front of everybody at a press conference and got lead poisoning. But inventors are a reckless breed. I mean, I'm
Yeah, they
sure
are.
out, yeah, I'm sure out
They
there
have to
there's
be.
a there, yeah, there's a nice list out there of inventors killed by their own inventions. And I
They
would
don't
tell
know what's going
people,
to happen. Yeah.
yeah, I would tell people all about these inventors that are killed by their own inventions. But that sounds like a really good show idea. So I'm going to put that in my pocket.
That's a pretty good one. Actually, I'm going to write that one down right now, too.
You don't get to do that one. It was
No, I'm just
mine.
playing.
Huh. All
No, I
right.
do have some questions, but I will wait.
Okay. Well, with all the, like I said, he's not completely blameless, but the real villain here is GM and DuPont. Midgley
Mhm.
was a minion. He was a sidekick. He's like, hey, here, I got this great thing. Here's this non-toxic formula. And they're like, we can't make a lot of money on this. Go away. Bring me something new. And he did.
That's just mine.
So he's not guilt free. He's on the bus, but he's not in the driver's seat. Now, the big
He
companies,
could have not worked there.
yeah, he
Like you
could, but I
said, the
mean,
whole
like,
victim blaming thing.
I just, he's inventing. He's getting to do what he wants to do. Like,
Mhm.
think about how many inventors just sit there like live in poverty while they invent at home. He gets to go somewhere and get paid to invent.
Very true. Okay.
Yeah. Well, the big companies got to make money on leaded gasoline until 1996 when it was finally phased out of on-road vehicles. Some studies say that American exposure to lead in the time that leaded gas was used resulted in an average loss of 2.6 IQ points per person.
Dang.
I couldn't find any other statistics, but all that stuff I said earlier about, like different, the symptoms of lead poisoning were happening. At least, that's what the internet said. It's hard to say because I'm short 2.6 IQ points right now. But it's so funny. It didn't have numbers saying how many people dealt with like, anemia and all this other stuff because of the exhaust from the lead gas cars. But
Hmm.
it wasn't good. So, I mean, so that was Thomas's first plan that not first plan, but first invention that nearly killed lots and lots of people. He just made lots of people sick that with that.
Oh, on that, that'd be a good part for my question. What
Okay.
did you look up? What's the treatment for the lead poisoning?
I don't know. I'm not a
Oh, okay.
doctor. Why do I care how to treat it?
I didn't know if it made a lot of people sick. I didn't know if you were curious to see how they made them better.
No, I don't care.
No,
I mean, we,
okay.
we have unleaded gas now, so we're
Oh,
fine. I don't care.
yeah. There's
If lead
sacrifices
poisoning
for
was like a problem, then, like maybe. Or if I thought my wife was trying to poison me, then yeah, I'd probably look up like, what to do in case you're poisoned by arsenic or whatever. Um, but no, I know useful things like, if there's like radiation, did drink iodine, that I know that much, or I think you drink it. I don't know.
I, I don't want to
Okay.
drink any radiation.
Well, no, it's supposed to help alleviate its effects.
Oh,
All right. We'll move along
okay.
we're going to go to later in the 1920s. Thomas, at that point, moved on to the Frigidaire division of General Motors, which I never knew until this that Frigidaire, the refrigerators, was, at least in that time, a division of General Motors. You learn
Makes
something new
sense.
all the
Have you
time.
seen an old refrigerator?
Well, they still make Frigidaires now, but I mean, yeah,
No,
I
but
guess
have
it
you
would
seen
make
what they
sense.
look like?
When they had the big thing on top, the big tank looking
Yeah.
thing on top, yeah.
And how massive the doors were. It looked like a damn car.
Well, and they were always super loud too.
Weigh about 700 pounds.
Yeah. All right. Well, his new task from the GM overlords was to find a non toxic, non flammable refrigerant. This is already better than the last one. The last one, they didn't give a shit. This time, you're like, hey, make us something that's not toxic and not flammable that can make things cold. And at the time, air conditioning and refrigeration systems used chemicals such as ammonia, chloromethane, propane, methylformate, and sulfur dioxide. All these chemicals were toxic, flammable, or explosive. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's,
Let's use all of them together.
yeah, it's like, how'd your uncle die? Well, he went to get a beer, but then his refrigerator exploded. Then my cousin died because of all the gases. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
shit.
Shit, the times they lived through.
Yep. Well, Thomas's and his team found that they could incorporate fluorine into a hydrocarbon. I don't know how they do that, but they did that because that's
They're
how
inventors.
people know how to do that with 2.6 more IQ points. But whenever they did this, they created. Okay, all right, bear with me, folks. Here we go. He created dichloro-difluoromethane.
Perfect. Absolutely nailed it.
Yeah, so I mean, just judging by the prefixes on those, I guess it's two chlorides and two fluorines on a methane. I don't know. I did bad at chemistry.
I did too.
Yeah.
I did too.
Well,
that was the hardest class I've ever took.
yeah. Well, the chemistry nerds lost their minds with excitement whenever he, came out with this. The Society of Chemical Industry awarded Thomas the Perkins Medal. The American Chemical Society gave him the Priestley Award and the Willard Gibb Award. He received 2 honorary degrees, and it was all capped off when he was elected to the United States National Academy of Sciences and made president and chairman of the American Chemical Society.
Oh.
I guess they ran out of awards and it's just like, here, have a job instead.
Yeah.
Or a position.
We're going to pay you instead of giving you awards.
I love naming off all those awards, though. It's like, I'm if we have any like chemical engineers, listening, they're probably all like, oh man, I've always wanted to win. That's my dream.
What a rock star.
Yeah, we're all like, okay, it's a thing.
Yeah. That's good.
Yeah, all these sound fantastic, but other than us not knowing what those awards are, I don't know what dichloro-difluoromethane is. Oh, we call it Freon. It's also the very first chlorofluorocarbon.
Oh.
Yeah. Do you remember what chlorofluorocarbons or CFCs are?
Cancer-causing agents.
Wrong. Well, indirectly. It's the nasty chemical that scientists in the 1970s figured out was gobbling up the ozone layer.
Oh, okay.
The ozone layer. It's that nice layer in the atmosphere that keeps, that reflects ultraviolet light and keeps it off of us. So
we don't burn.
Or, die from skin cancer. That sort of thing. So in fear of everyone getting skin cancer, movements began to get companies to stop using them in aerosols and refrigerants. Like I said, they figured this out in the 70s. Well, in 1987, they finally got the government to agree to half the use of CFCs. It wasn't completely banned out of aerosols and refrigerants until 2010. It still like pops up, but it's usually like an after product of like other chemical processes, and so they don't get in trouble for that. But it's no longer in hairspray anymore.
I remember it being in the back of hairspray bottles. They would have the little
CFC
little symbol.
Yeah. Because that was like the biggest deal. They're like, oh, yep, nope, we got a big old hole in our ozone layer. Now the only thing that we have that's eating holes in it are cow farts. I'm not kidding. It's true. So that's why a lot of the environmentalists want like cattle farming to be significantly reduced because of the carbon emissions and methane releases from cows. Because cows fart a lot.
They do fart a lot. Well, speaking of CFCs and hairspray, what were the biggest things going on in the 80s and 90s? It was people's hair.
Oh, and when everybody had tall hair and stuff.
Yes, we put Aquanet into the stratosphere in money. I mean, how much hairspray cans did somebody go through? My grandmother, holy crap, she had a perfect sphere of hair for the 40 years of my life that I knew her.
I do
It
remember,
never
like,
deflated. Yeah, it was always
back in the
around.
80s, all the women would sit there and do the curling irons.
Yes.
Just spray that shit down.
Have you ever seen Twisted Sister? I mean, look at the hair bands.
Oh,
All their hair
yeah.
is crazy. And in the 90s, the girls, they would do the little bangs and get them real high and spray them. And then
Mm-hmm.
they would get the sides out and make them real big and spray them. I mean, we contributed to probably all of that problem.
Probably, yeah.
Mhm. Damn hairspray.
Now, of course, Thomas was never aware of what, the problems that CFCs ended up creating. He didn't know it while he was doing it, and he definitely didn't know after, because he was dead by the time everybody figured it out. He contracted polio in 1940 and was left severely disabled. Ever the
Polio.
inventor, though, yeah, polio.
When was the vaccine when was that eradicated?
Not till way later. There were still kids getting polio in the 60s.
Oh, well,
Yeah,
what do I know?
yeah, nothing apparently.
I don't know anything about polio.
Well, ever the inventor, he came up with an elaborate system of ropes and pulleys that would allow him to get out of bed, because polio was crippling.
Mhm.
It jack up your legs and stuff. In 1944, he was found in his bed, tangled up in his invention, strangled to death.
Oh no!
It's not funny, but it's funny. His
He
family
didn't.
insists
Yeah.
his family insisted that it was accidental, but the coroner marked it up as suicide. Now, this is one of those ones I'm not sure which is worse. I mean, being an inventor, would you rather people think that you killed yourself, or rather people think that you fucked up your own invention enough to where you hung yourself on it?
Maybe that was the invention, was to kill himself.
I don't know. It was so he could get out of bed because his limbs weren't working right no more.
Oh
I just
well.
don't know if it was like convenient. He's like, you know what, fuck this, and it just like looped it around his neck.
Yeah.
And I will say also, in the coroner report, it does not say if he was part of the 1/3 that died with a boner when he was hung. So I think that I think when people hang themselves, and yeah, well, I'm not shamed on this one. So everybody's gonna be like, you shouldn't shame people that commit suicide. Yeah, we should. It makes it
Mhm.
less appealing to do. So if you hang yourself, if you die with a boner, that needs to be in the coroner report.
Mhm. Should we
Hell,
probably take a picture of it?
even the obituary, maybe. Like, he died with a heart on.
It should be buried with it on like that.
Yeah. All right. Now,
Be hard to close the casket though. Just prop it open all the time.
oh gosh, I'm so tempted to tell a joke right now, like an actual
What?
joke. And
Okay.
it's
Well,
too
what's
far off
stopping you?
topic. It's too far off topic. I'll tell it at the end.
Oh, okay.
All right. So, the big story about Thomas Midgley came after he was gone. Not every article, but plenty of the articles and podcasts that I find referred to him as evil. And unfortunately, only a few of them are being sarcastic. I mean, I came across one just basically, like saying he was one of the he was one of the worst people in history because he caused more environmental damage than any other human being ever. I will say that I came across plenty that do give the guy a break, because Freon, at least with that one, he was making that one with completely good intentions. It wasn't like the knock one where he came up with his, hey, here's the
Good
safe
intention, yeah.
idea. And then they're like, screw that, go make us some money. This one, it was like, okay, I'm bringing something that's not toxic, not flammable, it's not explosive, and it keeps food cold. Nothing wrong with any of that.
Yeah. Sign me up.
Yeah. Now, fortunately, most of that bad stuff that people are saying are, people like us whose opinions don't matter. So I mean, it's not like I'm coming across like academic and scholarly articles. It's like, oh yes, so the Harvard, they say that Thomas Midgley is a prick. The National Inventors Hall of Fame acknowledged that both of these inventions had severe negative impacts, but they were still important achievements. They also acknowledge a couple of his other accomplishments, as well as his 117 patents.
Wow. 117?
117 patents. Yep, 117. So,
Wow.
not a bad guy.
No. What was some of his other inventions?
I don't know. Don't care. I don't care. Those weren't fun. I wanted the ones that, he almost tried to end the world with on accident. Like I said, accidental Bond villain. He had like these big, large scale disaster things that he created, and he didn't even mean to. All right. So, first story that involves poison, severe environmental damage, and an unfortunate death. I feel pretty good. I mean, he was able to do more damage than most movie villains could without even trying.
Very true.
Which
and affected globally.
It's inspiring. I mean, I wish I could accidentally make that big of an impact. I mean, but
hey, we're trying, damn it.
And also, it's a great morality tale. I mean, this is like the perfect story of explaining the road to hell being paved in good intentions. I mean, and as I said earlier, history is meant to be learned from, and there's lots of valuable lessons here. And I think all people could learn from it. I don't think large companies will learn anything from this, but hopefully smart people like Thomas will learn from his story and his mistakes, and then they won't become a James Bond villain on accident.
Yeah.
So that's
just quit.
Yeah. So I salute you, Thomas Midgley. You did the best you could. However, if they ever find your diary or something and it turns out you were doing this shit on purpose and in an effort to destroy the world or hold the ozone layer hostage until you get $100 million, I reserve the right to change my mind about you. Okay. Now, all right. That's the end of the story part of the show. So if everybody's like, okay, I'm done listening to you guys, I heard about Thomas Midgley Jr., great. I'm going to tell that joke now that I thought about. So just because we were talking about dying with a heart on, not being able to close the casket and stuff. Okay. So a man dies. He's like in his 60s or whatever. And the wife gets a call from the funeral home saying, "Ma'am, we need your help." And she's like, "What can I help you with?" He's like, "I really don't want to bother you with anything right now. And I really don't know how to approach this, but your husband died with an erection and we can't hide it. It's very obvious. We can't even close the casket." And she's like, "Okay." And he's like, "Yeah, no, we taped it to his leg. It made his leg lift up. We taped it to his stomach and he sat up.
Oh, my god dang.
We don't know what to do with this massive boner." And his wife's like, "Cut it off and shove it up his ass." And they're like, "Excuse me?" She's like, "You heard me. Cut it off, shove it up his ass." So funeral happens. Everybody's walking by during the viewing, looking at, the dead man. And people are noticing that he looks just incredibly uncomfortable. He doesn't have that serene look that, they try to give dead people. He just looks incredibly uncomfortable. And finally, the wife, she comes to the casket. She puts her hand down and she leans forward. She's like, "Hurts like a motherfucker, doesn't it? How do you like it, you son of a bitch?" That was it. I fucked up the punchlines. How'd you like it, you son of a bitch? There we go. Anyways,
Either way,
that's what I thought of with dead people not being able to close the casket because of hard-ons. On that dud of a joke,
that was a funny one.
We'll go ahead and call this one quits. Now, please join us next time when Jason,
that's me,
if he's not too busy, inventing vodka-flavored chewing gum that causes hives, erectile dysfunction, cancer of the earlobe, detached retinas, memory loss, dry elbows, birth defects, memory loss, mesothelioma, hair loss, gingivitis, memory loss, runner's nipples, hairy palms, type 27 diabetes, and memory loss. If he isn't too busy with that, he'll tell us about something that will hopefully make us say, "Wait, what? Oh, shit, did I forget to say memory loss?" Anyway.
Oh, my God, that was funny.
I figured you'd like that.
Yeah. Later.
All right, bye. Thank you for joining us for Waywut. We really appreciate you watching or listening. Please subscribe or follow us on your favorite platform to catch our latest episodes that we publish on Tuesdays and sometimes on Fridays. We'd love to hear from you, whether it's rating us on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, commenting on our videos or just a podcast episode, or following us and hitting us up on TikTok, Facebook, or X. You can find us there with our handle, Waywut Podcasts. That's WAYWUT Podcast. And that will do it for this episode. Join us next time, and we'll make you say, "Wait, what?"